A spiritual awakening is when you're sort of waking up, your soul is like becoming quite loud and saying, this is not, we're on a journey of self-development somewhere. We need to start doing something to help us. And you start to become this real truth seeker, real truth seeker, a real, your insatiable need for knowledge and learning. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast, where practical spirituality meets real life. Hi, I'm your host, Sheetal Story. I'm a psychic medium, grief support counselor, professional astrologer, and a human design reader, and of course, a law of attraction master coach. With my unique blend of spiritual and practical tools, I am here to help you align with your soul-led purpose and ignite a life that sets your soul on fire. In this podcast, we are going to explore the principles of energy, astrology, spirituality, and psychology to help you heal your grief and create an aligned life and business from the inside out. Whether you are looking to deepen your intuition, understand your cosmic design, or transform your business, this podcast is for you. Join me each week for insightful discussions, practical tips, and inspiring stories that will guide you on your journey to living your very best life. Don't forget to subscribe and follow us on Instagram at Sheetal Story or wherever you listen to this podcast. Let's dive in and start this transformative journey together. Welcome to the Story of Spirit podcast. A spiritual awakening. We hear about that a lot in pop culture. I think it is thrown about a lot on social media. And, what is a spiritual awakening? Does anyone actually know? When are you awake? Is it woke? And I think that's such BS, by the way, woke culture and all of that. If we actually want to be honest, woke culture came about from the Black activism movement, and it is to be awakened, to be aware of the systems of oppression and things that are around us that are actually pulling the levers, if you will. And so, I think it has been demonized by certain political parties, let's say, that don't want us to be awake, want to keep us asleep, want to keep us subjugated. And today, I really want to talk about a spiritual awakening. It is when you kind of go through this wake up in your life. And I was sort of thinking about when does it happen? And I think it happens, differently for everybody in terms of timing. So in astrology, we have certain time frame cycles that we are all in. Everybody on this planet is going through cycles. We are in multiple cycles. I'll do another podcast on cycles because it is quite profound when you see where you are in the cycles that are in play in your life, because when you are born, your cycles start then. So a solar cycle is, your sun coming back to its original position at the time you were born. That's your birthday, right? And it's not actually your birthday. Sometimes it's like the day before, the day after, because the earth does not rotate on a 365-day axis. It's actually a little bit less. So there's it's not always on the day. So in astrology, we call it your solar return day, which is the day that your sun returns back to its original position at the time you were born. And that's actually your day of your birthday, not the day on the calendar, right? And the Gregorian calendar, and it's just a construct. It really is not. The Julian calendar started first and then the Gregorian calendar. And, to be fair, these calendars really tried to tell us how to tell time, how to follow the cycles. But when we look back in history, we actually follow an isolunar time frame, which is the moon cycles. So the moon cycle is every 29 and a half days, and it goes from new moon to full moon and then back to new moon, right? So another major cycle that really tells us time is Saturn. And Saturn is Chronos. It is the timekeeper of the zodiac. And it is about the taskmaster. It's about being responsible, doing things the right day, doing things the right way. You don't have forever. And I think time is definitely a construct of the 3D reality because it sets us in motion. It lights a fire under our arses because without that time, without, you could be here forever. Think about like Vampire Diaries, if you ever watch that, like, what would you not do? What would you do? You know what I mean? Like, you just, I got time. I don't have any rush in here. But it's when somebody passes away in your life or you get a dire diagnosis or something happens and you realize, wait, I don't have forever. right? I have a dear friend who's writing an amazing book right now about, you don't have forever. You only have a certain amount of time in your life and you best use it because you will arrive onto the other side and go, "Pff, I really wasted a lot of time." And this really came up, which again, so weird sometimes how things cross your path. I flipped on the TV while I was making lunch this week, and the David Cassidy storyline was on. And if you don't know who David Cassidy was, he was the singer in the Partridge Family and a sweet, good looking young man back then, and had a host of trouble with addiction, and it all stemmed from his father not feeling like enough for his father, and they had a very tenuous relationship, died early, and he felt his whole life that he was, making up for it, and ended up dying of liver failure in like early, like I think in his 60s kind of thing, 67, I'm thinking, but around that age. And his dying words to his estranged daughter, who they became connected towards the end of his life, was so much time wasted or something of that nature. And I was like, that is so interesting. Here's this time piece yet again of like, I wish I had known. I wish I had done things differently. And I was talking to someone in my life recently about, youth. And I understand fundamentally that everything has happened at the right and perfect time. My soul chose things my mind was ready for, and if it wasn't ready, then it came around in another way. And how fast would you move if you knew everything was going to work out? What if you took the chances now? What if you stepped into big moves in your life early instead of waiting, right? And there's multiple timelines in play. You can choose to do anything right now if you want to, but it's about your comfort. It's about your belief. It's about your mindset, and your programming from the past. And what will people think of me? And, all these barriers come up. But life will not wait. It will continue to push us forward in ways that our soul is desiring to experience in this world. And so, it's been quite interesting to just sort of been sitting back and waiting and sort of going, I wonder where I'm supposed to be. I wonder if I'll get a nudge from the universe in terms of which way I'm meant to take my business or which way am I meant to grow. And spirit keeps saying, you're the decision maker, not us. We're not going to miraculously drop in a compass. Like, your compass is in your soul. It's not, we don't have the map. You have the map. You've got to just follow your joy. And, a dear friend of mine reminded me of that. You're, you're looking outside yourself if you are looking for direction. It's actually about listening to your joy and taking aligned action in that place. So, a spiritual awakening comes up to help you remind yourself, number one, that you don't have forever, right? So, Saturn cycles happen every 29 to 31 years. Saturn goes retrograde. So, it is kind of different for everybody depending on when you were born and when it goes retrograde. But usually, between the age of 29 and 31, you will have a Saturn return. And that is a big grow up in your life. And as like a coming of age, it's time for you to step up. It's sort of the end of childhood, if you will, and take more responsibility in your life. So then the next big evolutionary time is Uranus opposition. So Uranus takes 84 years about to go around your chart. And so its opposition is 42 years, 41, 42 years. So between the age of 40 and 42, you will have, which I like to call the midlife breakthrough. Yes, we are breaking through all the old crap, the old paradigm, the beliefs, the identities, the things that were given to you that really aren't yours, that you just kind of say, screw it. As a woman, this is the time when you throw off your bathing suit and you walk around the change room naked and you just are who you are. I still don't do that because I'm an East Indian, I like to just protect some of those things a little bit. But it is not a time where you care. It's really a time where all of my girlfriends who turned 40 sort of said, I kind of just reached this plateau where I didn't care anymore. I don't care what people think. I don't care if it doesn't make people happy. I stopped caring about disappointing everyone because I was disappointing myself. and I'm no longer going to self abandon. So it's a liberation. Your 40s truly are liberation. I saw a very, very sad post about someone who was like, it's the last day of 39. I'm so sad. I was like, girl, you don't even know. It's like I'm sitting in a luxury resort. I'm watching you paddle your way in your canoe trying to make it. And I'm just like, come join us in the 40s. We are not playing around anymore. It is a wonderful club to be in, by the way. So if you were listening to this under the age of 40, just you wait. It gets really good, really good. And then we hit the Chiron opposition, which is in your 50s. And Chiron is a asteroid that is going around our solar system, and it is called the wounded healer. As you heal others through your own wound. It is a wound in your chart that it continues to fester, but you grow through it, right? You grow through the wound. It becomes a catalyst for growth. It's something that's always going to be there in your chart. And probably not going to surprise you because I really should do a show on money trauma, but my Chiron is in Taurus in my fifth house, and it's about making money and feeling joyful from a place of abundance and realizing that, I am the money, which I know. I mean, I feel that, and then you ascend to a new level and you're like, oh, am I really the money? That's what Chiron is, right? It's like every new level, you're like, oh, seeing this damn wound all over again. And we grow from it. It is a catalyst, right? Bless Chiron in your chart. And then we come into our 60 cycle, and our 60 cycle is around the time of our second Saturn return. So that is around the age of 56 to 60. We will have that the next second Saturn return. This is now we enter into the sage years, the wise woman age era. And so I like to think of it as sort of the seeker, the sower, and the sage, right? I think the old term was the maiden, the mother, and the crone. And I really have never jived with it. I just was like, meh, I don't, not everybody wants to be a mother. I mean, it is a time of creativity, but the term mother, I think, it sort of shames people who doesn't want to have kids. And like, we're done with that patriarchy BS. So I like to think of it as the seeker, the sower, and the sage. And I'd like to say that I thought of that, and I did not. One of my coaches, his name is Julie Ciardi, actually jot that one up. And I loved it. I'm still playing around with it a little bit because I think we're missing an era in there of like the 40s cycle, because she's a human design coach. So she sort of thinks like the 30s below, then the 30s to 60s, and then the 60s above. And I think there is an era in the 40s to 60s where we are the sovereign, where we just really don't give a crap about what people think about society, of everything that's been projected. We're waking up to our truest self. And it's in that 40s to 60s cycle where we really step into our sovereign nature and become who we're meant to be. And then the 60s is we become the sage. We are sort of as my astrology mentor used to say, it's the gravy years. So, in there, you can have a spiritual awakening at any moment in time. So I'm sharing that with you because it's not like, oh, you can't have it before your 30s. That's not true. And I think we are seeing with these younger generation, they are brilliant. They are aware of things before we were aware of them in our time frame. Like there is such genius energy coming onto this planet, and I mean, we need it. The evolutionary timeline of the earth is speeding up. Can you feel it? Can you feel it? Like the evolution of technology in just the last 10 years is far surpassed the evolution of technology in the previous 100 years, right? So timeline is speeding up, and I almost kind of feel like there's this race to something, but I don't know what it is. And it is requiring us to wake up. It is requiring us to wake up to the essence of who we are, right? A spiritual awakening is you're waking up to your spirit, and you're realizing that this 3D matrix that's told you that you need to look a certain size and be a certain height and have a certain look. And, God forbid you grow gray early on. And, God forbid you're not a mother. And, like all the things that we're so done with that. Ancient wisdom does not care about any of that crap. So So we're really coming back to the essence of our soul. And that's what a spiritual awakening is. And so, here's some signs that I kind of was brainstorming about what, some of the things that really alert you to a spiritual awakening. Because if you're going through it, you feel like you are going crazy, like the people around you are looking at you weird, but you don't understand why. I went through my spiritual awakening when I started to come into my mediumship gifts again. So, if you're new here, I was born with we are all born with abilities. I'm not special because I was born with abilities. A lot of mediums are like, I'm a natural born medium. I'm like, bitch, we all are. So we are, it's we're not all, but like those of us who are mediums are born with the gift. It's not like someone's born with it and then someone like, artificially eats it and has it. Like it's not, it's in your soul. It's a soul quality. So every one of us has the ability to feel our loved ones on the other side and the people who are tethered to us by love. But not everyone has the ability to read for others. So if you start to perceive the loved ones of other people on the other side, then you have the mediumship ability, right? So if you're just feeling your grandma, it's fine, right? Great. Congratulations, you're normal. If you're feeling my grandma, now you've got some gifts and we need to develop those or they will start to consume you. So just a case in point, like it's everybody has abilities, everyone has gifts. If you are a medium, your gift will come to the surface at the right and perfect moment in your life for you to develop them. So I was born with the ability to see spirit. I could see energy around people. I see aura. I can see colors around people. Ever since I was a kid, that's my life. That's what I grew up with. And then at the age of 9, I kind of shut it all down because it was really scary and I just wanted to be a normal kid, a normal brown kid growing up in the west side of Edmonton, Canada. As normal as I'm not meant to be normal. And then after I had my last child, which was 15 years ago, my gifts started to come back and I started to develop them. And that was when like it is when I started seeing dead people again was 100% my spiritual awakening. You will not. I just want to preface that. That is not part of the spiritual awakening. I'm going to start seeing dead people. No, if you have your gifts, it could open up at that time, but it's not necessarily the time. But a spiritual awakening is when you're sort of waking up, your soul is like becoming quite loud and saying, this is not, we're on a journey of self-development somewhere. We need to start doing something to help us. And you start to become this real truth seeker, real truth seeker, a real your insatiable need for knowledge and learning, and I started with meditation, went down the path of meditation, and then got in a whole other world in that, which I've talked about, where a cult leader's right hand guy was my meditation teacher, and I should do an episode on that because that involves aliens and stuff. It's a wild story, y'all. But that piece of it, that meditation piece, then led me to mediumship and learning about the philosophies of spirit and mediumship and how it works and what's the mechanics of it versus what does it feel like for me. And as I started to go down this path of like meditation teacher training and teaching intuition and going down more advanced paths of astrology and tarot and just learning about grief counseling and psychology, I started to change. And I didn't do it on purpose. I don't, it was like, I'm going to change now. No, like we don't do that. It's just like, it just happens as you're going down your path of learning. And I remember having a colleague at that time that we were quite close. We had our children at the same time. I was hired. She trained me. I learned so many amazing things from her. And I still hold her with love in my heart. She does not hold me with love in her heart. And as I started to go down this path, and we had to share a room one time as we had to with my previous company. And she turned to me and she's like, Sheetal, you're changing. And I'm like, am I? Am I? I don't think I am. I mean, I don't know. I don't feel any different. She's like, you are so different. And I was like, in what way? Like, can you like articulate it? And she couldn't. She's like, well, you're just kind of different. And I was like, I don't know what you mean. Like I think that I'm interesting, but I think I've always been interesting. But I want to talk about different topics right now. And I'm consumed. Like I have this very potent Mercury that I almost fixate sometimes on things. And so I wanted to just like talk about those things more. And I was in that world and I was meeting other mediums and other psychics. And I was going to fairs and people were coming to me for readings. And I was taking classes and I was meeting all these beautiful soul sisters that were like, where have they been my whole life? And she's like, yeah, you're different. And I was like, okay. I think we're all supposed to change, like, but I hope you know you're coming with me on this journey. Like, I talk to you about everything. I tell you everything that I'm doing." And she was trying to relate because she had a friend who was quite intuitive as well, and we would talk about it quite a bit. And then one day, she just stopped talking to me, and I was like, what did I do? What happened? And I asked all our mutual friends, and everyone's like, "Oh, don't pay any attention to it. It's stupid." And I was like, "But, so tell me, like, did I do something?" And they're like, "No, you didn't do anything." And, to this day, she just still hasn't told me what I did. "You know what you did." That's what when I asked her straight out, and I was like, "What did I do?" "You know what you did." And now I realize from a psychology standpoint that that's avoidant attached. She was perceiving me pulling away, and in order to protect herself, she put up a wall and ghosted and literally would not return texts, would not return emails. We worked together, y'all, And eventually it was the catalyst of her leaving the company, which spirit showed me later that that was why she was meant to leave the company at that time. And if we were still really good friends and that everything was good, she would not have left and gone on. And she ended up having a lot of success in her career because of leaving at that time. There wouldn't have been that success staying where we were. So, I was a catalyst of growth for her, which I did not want to be, but, I mean, great for her. But she completely ghosted me. And that is part of her ammo. That is part of the way she was brought up. When she perceives pain coming her way, she will completely avoid and ghost. But I didn't learn that until much later as I was going into my psychology, my grief counseling and stuff. I went, oh, that's why she did that. So there's a real sense of friends changing, right? A disconnection. This is sign number one of your spiritual awakening. You feel disconnected from your old life. Friends, jobs, hobbies, conversations that once excited you now feel flat and meaningless. And not to say these friends felt meaningless, but they could feel me shifting, but I'm going through it. So I'm like, no, this is fine. And I'm still talking to you. And they're like, we don't like it. We don't like it. We don't know about it. It's just like going to parties and people be like, "What do you do for a living?" And I'm like, "I'm a psychic." And I have friends who are like, "Why are you telling people that?" So because that's what I am. I'm no longer dimming my light. Like I am done trying to tell everybody I'm a sales rep in the food industry. Like freaking boring, man. Let's talk about things that are really interesting. You want to know what your aura says to me? Here's what your aura says to me. What are you hiding, girl? Let's talk about that. Which, here, be careful with that one, right? If you're sitting at the table with a psychic and a glass of wine, you're like, let's talk about that. But that was really interesting for me to notice that these friendships were starting to shift. And, I've been alone a lot in my life. I was an only child till I was like 5, and then my brother was born. And even then, there's a lot of isolating things in my life. Even though I'm super social and I'm a huge extrovert, I think that loneliness piece has allowed me to transition through these things in a way that like I have a fortitude of self. So is that a gift or is that a trauma? Both. The answer is both, my friends. So when I do, go through these phases, if I'm going through them alone, there's always again the universe will give you a glimmer. They'll give you people that you transcend these times with, where these people just come into your life, and all of a sudden it's like wow. And even when one friend left, an amazing, more aligned friend stepped forward. And I have a dear friend in my life right now who we worked together in the past, and then all of a sudden something shifted. We just worked together. It was, I knew who she was. She was, whatever out there. And then somehow we reconnected years later and we were so aligned, right? She had started down a yoga path and created her own jewelry company, and was still working, in the food and sales industry. And she's a brilliant, brilliant sales manager. And she's so smart and she's so gifted and talented. And she also has mediumistic tendencies. She's a medium, let's be honest. And she's a hella good psychic and she's a really good tarot reader, but she closeted, which is fine. There's no judgment from me, but I just feel lucky to be her friend, if I'm being honest. And we changed together. She's evolving on this journey with me. And I love it. Like, I love getting to talk to her about spiritual and leadership and those business aspects and all that stuff. And it's like she's evolving, we're evolving together. You know what I mean? Like, you will have friendships like that that will come in all of a sudden. You're like, hey, and it's like a frequency thing. You know, you've just raised your frequency, and it's like your beacon is now beaconing, shining out, or bombing out another frequency, that there are people going, hey, I like that frequency. That's my frequency. And then they come in to see you. So they can't find your frequency if you're wearing a mask. And I think that's when I was like, my spiritual awakening is like, F the mask. I'm not doing that anymore. I'm going to be and show up as myself no matter where I am. Right. We just got a new person in my life that's, supporting us. And yeah, I'm like, oh, by the way, like I see clients here at my house, but I see them online, and I'm a psychic medium and astrologer. She's like, what? She's like, "Tell me more about that." And then she started telling me about all her experiences about it. I was like, "Yes, girl." Like, it's yeah, it's the more who you are, the people who need you will find you, and your soul family starts to find you that way too. So, yes, you're being disconnected from your old life because you're raising your frequency. You're stepping more into authenticity of who you really are. And those friends and people that fall away from your life, they were there for a time that was really beautiful and brilliant. And I thanked every single one of them, including that girl that I used to work with. You know, but I still think of her with a lot of love because she taught me so many things about myself and about sales and marketing. And I, I, I think of her with love, you know, even though she still doesn't talk to me. All right, yeah, move on. Number two, a sign that you are on your spiritual awakening is your intuition is suddenly louder. Now, this goes hand in hand with number three, which is heightened sensitivity. Because if your intuition is louder, it means that you are listening. You are more able to pick up the signals of the world around you. Remember, you are a radio antenna picking up energy of the spaces, people, places around you. So that antenna is always picking up information. And that information coming into you, if you're not paying attention and you're in your mind, you can't, you don't know. You're just like, oh, I feel weird. Or I don't know why I know that, and you might even just poo poo it and move it out of your awareness field. But if you are paying attention to energy, how you feel in your body, what you almost all of a sudden just know something about or feel, or you get this image in your mind, you're paying attention to what that's about and being open to receive how that's connected to your life in some way. And I always say to spirit, please do not show me anything I cannot change or influence or affect, right? I don't want to see planes going down if I can't change the trajectory of that plane. I don't want to see people dying ahead of time if I can't change the outcome of that. Okay? Don't show me that. So, your intuition is suddenly louder. You're getting nudges, dreams, gut feelings that you can't ignore. And the reason why you're getting those is because you are more energetically sensitive. So, if you think about your receptors being shined up, the sandpaper has shined up your little receivers, you then can feel more sensitive in crowds, in places where there's a lot of energy, Wi Fi beams. I can feel every time I go under telephone wire poles, so those energy wire corridors, where there's like all those telephone lines or energy lines being strung, walking under those, I feel it in my teeth. And then even at the airport, if you have to go through those scanners, you can opt out, which every time I opt out, they think I'm a terrorist and they want to come and pat me down and do a cavity search. And I'm like, maybe I'll just deal with with the x-ray where they can see my bones. But every time I go through that, I feel this like vibration go through my brain. It's like, it's weird, I know, but I'm super sensitive to energy and I can feel it, but I know that it's coming, so I shore up. So it's about understanding energy, the mechanics of it, and being able to work with it, right? To work with it. So, your heightened sensitivity, number three, you notice energy, emotions, and environments more intensely. And you must then pull in your tools on what to do with that. So, even if you can feel that someone is not feeling well, or you feel their energy inside your body, you can send it back with love and consciousness, never to return to you again, right? You are not here to feel everybody's stuff all the time. Okay. And I'm talking to you, empath, that's listening right now. It's a little tough love. You are not here to feel everybody's stuff all the time. You're here to use that as information to support them if you have capacity. And I say that again. You are here to know what they need to support them if you have capacity. If you have capacity is the most important part of that sentence, not support them. Okay. If you heard that, I want you to hear it again. If you have capacity. Because we've often been told, especially as empaths and highly sensitive kids, that not told, but maybe made to believe within our own self that we have to take care of everyone else. And the psychology behind that is if our pillars of strength in our life, which is our parents and our earliest caregivers, are not well, are not happy, are not able to take care of you, then you are not okay. So everyone else okay means I'm okay too. And you ask any kid that, they will naturally flow into places where they can be strength for you when they see that you are not strong. And that is not their job. You did not birth your kid to be your best friend. You did not birth your kid to be your therapist. You did not birth your kid to be your crying place. Okay. They need those things of you. You do not need those things of them. So, and if your parents made you believe that is otherwise, then you definitely need therapy and support to understand what those created for you because they're not healthy conditions. And we definitely don't want to be handing that down to the next layer of our evolution, right? Of our society. Number 4 is questioning everything. Ugh. I was like, who told you that? What does that mean? Where did you learn that? Is that even real? My Virgo mind is a very potent one. Questioning everything, your beliefs, priorities, values are shifting, sometimes rapidly. It can feel like you are unraveling, right? You're like, what did I even believe to be true before? My son and I, my son who's 15, had a huge conversation last night about religion versus spirituality. And it's so interesting when you talk to these littles that are coming into their own. And he's like, Mom, I think I'm an atheist. I was like, tell me about that. He's like, well, like I know we're Hindu, but I don't know. Like, is God really a dude? Like, I don't think so. And I was like, that's right. God is is everything, is everywhere, and it's male and female. We are all mirrors of the divine. We are all bits of the divine in individuality. So the divine then would be both female and male, right? And he's like, yeah, I mean, that makes sense to me. But he's like, I don't like, I'm like, I don't know if I believe in religion. And I said, so that's why you think you're an atheist. So you believe in nothing? And he's like, well, no, I don't believe in nothing. I think there's like something that's like a loving presence. And I was like, yeah, that's spirituality, that there is consciousness in this universe. There is a beautiful flow of energy that we live in. And we are consciousness in that consciousness. We are consciousness realizing itself, if you will. I know we're getting esoteric in this, but this questioning everything piece is starting to, and you might not believe any of this that I'm saying is true, and that is fine. You know what? I'm not here to, be parroted or to tell you what's what. I'm in the journey with you, y'all. I'll come back from the dead on a podcast and tell you what's on the other side. And then we'll know, but until then, who knows? I haven't been there yet. I mean, I've been there many times, in previous life, but I still don't remember all that. But that changing in hypnosis. But again, another topic for another time. So questioning everything, you're natural. It's okay to do that. It's okay to question things. I think it's really interesting because in our parents' generation, and I'm assuming any parent, their parents, like every generation that's come before us, they questioned less and less and less, right? They just kind of did what they were told. These people know everything. We just defer to them. And, my parents, when they go to the doctor and they get a prescription, they don't look up the prescription. They don't look up the side effects. They don't look up even like, what is it supposed to be prescribed for? They just take it. Right. And I can tell you so many instances in my parents' lives where they've taken drugs that have interacted with other drugs. The pharmacy didn't catch it. The doctor didn't catch it. And it created a whole host of issues. And I'm just like, Mom, Google. Like Google the med, see at least what is this about? What are the side effects? How does it interact? Does it interact with any of your other medicines? Like, should you take it at night? Should you take it during the day? She's like, oh, I figure it out. And I'm like, yeah, you do. You really do. But, Google could help you a little bit. So it's like we question everything, right? I look up everything. And we've been through the hospitals, the medical system a lot with my kids. And I write down every med, I look up every dose, I look everything up because knowledge is power and understanding how systems work. And then so you can break them apart, number one, or number two, that you can work within them, you know? So I question everything. I always question stuff. It drives my teachers crazy. And because I'm inquisitive. I want to understand it all the way around. And if you think I'm questioning your authority, then you got problems because I'm just trying to learn. So I'm just asking, like, why is it like that? And what is that about? And can you tell me more about that? And you know, good teachers will answer all my questions. And I'm very lucky that I've had many, many good teachers in my lifetime. And then number 5 is the emotional roller coaster of it all. I wish it was like laying on a beach in Hawaii and you bloom into yourself. Wouldn't that be lovely? Not on this planet, my friends. You are moving through a deep grief, joy, confusion, and sometimes all in the same day. And this is just your first awakening. Like, that is like, why am I crying? I used to cry all the time during my spiritual awakening. Cry for the news, cry for things that were going out of my life, cry for realizations, joy, sadness, grief, all the things, they're all there because your soul is speaking to you. You're finally listening to your soul, and your soul speaks to you in emotions. So when you are in alignment, your soul is excited and it's, on track and it's joyful, inspired. And when it's off track, it's jealous, it's sad, it's angry, it's in grief. Because even grief understands that everything is cyclical. Everything, comes and leaves. And we are reborn again in every death that we experience. We are reborn again. We are an infinite being. And so our mind makes us feel that we are not, right? And grief is still real. It is part of the human experience. So I don't ever want you to hear in my words, my voice, and my podcast, and anything that you hear me say that grief is not important. It is so important. That's why I'm a grief support counselor, because it is such an important part of being. It's a catalyst for growth. So when you're in grief, I actually get really excited because I know on the other side, oof, you're about to be reborn into something that you could never have been reborn into without grief carving you out. So, moving through that grief requires support. So, a spiritual awakening is it's not about being perfect spiritually. It's really about becoming more aligned with your true self. That's what spiritual awakening is. And you can feel like you're falling apart because old identities, beliefs, attachments, things are just breaking down around you. And they're meant to be assimilated back into your life in a different way. You are changing. And I like to think of it this way. It's an analogy of like you're raising your frequency, but you're inviting everyone on your path to come with you, and they get to come or they don't. And, case in point with my, lovely friend that I used to work with is that I was inviting her to come on the path with me. I'm like, you're coming with me. I'm telling you all the things. And she fell away. That was her choice. She decided that it was not for her, that she was not ready for it. She couldn't, and she had a lot of trauma, and that was fine. Right. And the grief for me was that, a friendship ended, but the old me would have thought it was about me, but the new me realized that it wasn't. That's the beauty of spiritual awakening. There's so much knowledge and knowing that comes into your awareness now that you don't have to worry about that stuff anymore. Did I cry tears of sadness? Yes. And there's so much realization and so much beauty. I'm in such great, deep gratitude to her for that friendship and that time that we were very close because it was a time that I learned so much about myself, about her, about life. And I could not have done that if she didn't come into my life, you know? So, and also I want to, also this is a really important point is recognizing the difference between an awakening and a breakdown because a breakdown requires massive support. Right? You need a therapist, you need friends, you probably need medication. A breakdown means that you are unraveling and you need support. Your mind is coming apart almost. And whether that's big realizations or old, awarenesses are coming up, about parts of your life or things in your life that are deeply traumatic. And a breakdown requires medical support and intervention. So I really want you to hear that. right? It's not all like love and light, I'm awakening. And by the way, I can't get out of bed and haven't eaten in 3 days. That is not an awakening. That isn't a breakdown. And I really want to highlight the difference between the two. An awakening is leading to deeper clarity and purpose, right? We are becoming aware of truths within ourselves and we are moving forward, but in a way that is, again, there's some grief in there because we're releasing old identities. A breakdown is a feeling of coming apart, of not knowing which way to go or up or down, of crying all the time, of not eating, of not getting out of bed, of having trouble sleeping. Those pieces require support medically. Okay. So speak to your doctor or a medical practitioner, a health practitioner, or something that can help you with understanding that because it needs support. A doctor in psychology, like that kind of support. And the role of discomfort should also be mentioned during a spiritual awakening because it is not comfortable, my friends, right? You are in the cocoon liquefying, right? You're no longer the caterpillar and you're not yet the butterfly. You are in a liquid state and you are going through it. You're just going through it. But I have to say, like, I felt it was quite joyful for me. I was really excited because I had surrounded myself with support. I had attended a lot of groups, I'd signed up for a lot of things, and I was doing things back then in person. So I felt like I had a lot of community around me. And I also felt that my closest friends didn't really understand me. So it was a lonely time. I have to say, it was a lonely time, but it was because the people who were closest to me didn't quite get me, you know? And the new people who are coming into that close space where we're building those bridges at that time. So you may feel lost or out of place, but it's actually a sign of expanding, right? I knew it was a time of expansion. I knew that times would come together that I would meet my people and have friendships that I have right now, that I have today. And those friendships of that time that they were trying to understand me and come on the journey with me, I love them so much too because they tried their best too, and it just didn't align. And navigating friendship changes. I think it's again that mentality of like I'm inviting you to come along, and if you're not ready, it's okay. I love you and I wish you the best, and I'm so grateful for everything you have taught me and parts of my journey that you have come on. And it's okay that we're not on this part of the journey together. Maybe one day down the road we'll meet up again. And if we do, that'll be a glorious day. And if we don't, I will still love you. Practical tools to ground yourself during this awakening. It is so important that you give yourself tools. Journaling, such a good place to just write it out, speak it out, like talk about how you are feeling and why you're feeling, what's coming up for you. Nature is such a good place to go. Energy clearing, Reiki, healing practitioners, listening to your body, such an important thing to do during this time because it has a wealth of knowledge. And I'm going to add in here support. So whether you take up mentorship or you come into a program like my MIA Academy is for women who are awakening to their gifts and to a new way of being in their life. They want to do it together and they need support. Hello. Like not only have I done it, but I'm a psychic medium. So I can help you. I can sense things that are moving for you and I can give you tools. And we come up with so many tools to help you navigate this time, which includes cards and pendulums and astrology and human design. There's so many tools that kind of help you go deeper into who you are, who you're meant to be, and how you truly operate if you were to listen to your true self. And then, finally, my friends, I really want to leave you with this is that this is all working perfectly. You don't have to micromanage. You don't have to do anything. I mean, you just have to be open and take one step and, the next step and the next step and the next step. It's trusting the process. You can't rush an awakening. I know you want to, right? We want the fast button. There's no fast button in the spiritual awakening, and how to allow it to unfold without fear, to just allow it to unfold because it's going to. It's already en route. It's already doing its thing. There's nothing you can do to change it or to make it faster or to make it easier. To make it easier for yourself is to trust and allow and just flow and not try to wrap your mind around trying to understand everything and control everything. You can't micromanage the universe, my friends. It's too smart. It's not, it's like an employee trying to manage a manager. Like you are the employee, my friends, of the universe, and the universe is the manager. And the manager is working on your behalf. It's got your best interest at heart. This is a unionized place. There's no having to fight. It just loves you. It wants you to help everything. It wants to protect you. So let it. Let it. So if you are in your spiritual awakening, I love you. I'm sending you so much love and care. Just be kind to yourself. Give yourself a lot of self care. Notice how people show up in your life. Notice what you're feeling unaligned to anymore. It's okay to acknowledge that for yourself. It doesn't mean anything about you, it just means that you've outgrown that. And outgrown it means it just no longer aligned, right? It doesn't mean that you're better or worse for it. It's just not your thing anymore, right? We're not trying to be better or worse. When I use even frequencies, or that we're raising our frequency, and it means the people who doesn't come along with us, they're not bad or dumb or any of that stuff. They're just on another path. The universe doesn't compare. The universe doesn't have bad or good. It just has energy. And it's either magnetic to that energy or dissonant to that energy. And that's it. So when you're growing, as I was, my friend was became dissonant to my energy. She didn't like it. She had to go away. I was reflecting something back to her that she felt less than about herself. And that felt painful. So she moved away from me. Even though I tried my best to keep the channels open and have conversations, she was not ready to have those conversations. And I don't think she actually had the skill set to do that. So as we get older, friendships, the quality of our friendships are going to be determined by the depth of conversation we are willing to have and to hear, to listen to. So enjoy your spiritual awakening. If you're listening to this podcast, you either have had it, you are on it, or you're about to go through it. And if you know somebody else who's going through it, or this can help them in their awakening, please send it to them, because sharing truly is caring. We are in this together, my friends, and no one should go through an awakening alone. No one. So I am here, and if you're going through it, please check out MIA Academy. I would love to have you in there. I think it's a great place to learn about yourself, to learn about the tools, to get deeper into your intuition. There is no judgment, and everybody in that community is cheering you on into your dreams. So until next time, thank you for being here. I appreciate you, and I am sending you so much love wherever you are on your spiritual journey. Thank you for joining me on this episode of the Story of Spirit podcast. I hope you have found inspiration, support, and practical insights to help you align with your soul-led purpose and live a life that sets your soul on fire. If you have enjoyed today's episode, please subscribe to the podcast, leave a review, and share it with a friend. Your support helps us to reach more listeners and continues to provide valuable content. I sincerely appreciate every share, and I know it is how most people find me. It is because caring people like you have shared me with them at the right and perfect time. For more resources, insights, and to connect with our community, please visit us at www.sheetalstory.com and follow us on Instagram at sheetalstory. Remember, your journey to a more aligned and vibrant life is just the beginning, and I am here to support you every step of the way. Until next time, stay aligned, stay inspired, and keep shining your beautiful light. This is Sheetal Story, signing off from the Story of Spirit podcast. Here's the legal ease that's required by our lawyers. This podcast and the YouTube channel represents the opinions of Sheetal Story and her guests to the show. The content should not be taken as medical, psychological, or financial advice. This series is informational and entertainment purposes only. Because each person is so unique, please consult your healthcare professional, your mental health dream team, your financial advisor, or anyone else that's an expert in the field in where you are thinking of making big choices in your life.